right, I'll do it. We'll talk about Garnacho. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And yes, I've been putting this video off, but I feel like it is time. I've just watched a video from Fabrizio Romano, who has gone into not necessarily specific detail, but 100% backing his own claims that Chelsea are 100% interested in Alejandro Garnacho. And if the rumours are to be believed, the price just keeps going down and down and down, and to the point where I've seen as little as 30 million might be enough to pry him away from Manchester United. And this is just one of those, isn't it? Like, he has come out and he's like, I am not happy, I don't want to be here, and other than putting in a transfer request, there's not much else you can do to lower your value. So I'm going to do it. We're going to take a look at Garnacho. We're going to take a look at whether he would do well in our team, but with a twist. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to make it fun. So it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to the first episode in my new comparison series, Who's the Better Baller? And today we will not only be taking a look at Alejandro Garnacho and his stats from last season, but we will be juxtaposing and comparing them with Jadon Sancho, who played for us last season, and Jamie Bynoe-Gittens, who we've just signed for the same position. So this one does make a lot of sense on the face of it. We're not talking about really versatile players who we're expecting to put in loads of different positions. All three of them, for the most part, are byline left wingers. They favour the left side, they are wingers, they're not really attacking midfielders, and you can generally expect all three of them to play in a similar fashion despite there being some differences. So before I go any further, guys, if you are enjoying the content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Right, so without further ado, let's do it. Let's play this little game of Who's the Better Baller, featuring the stats from last season of Alejandro Garnacho of Man United, Jadon Sancho at Chelsea, and Jamie Bynoe-Gittens at Borussia Dortmund. So here are the rules. I'm going to go through a list of 10 stats that are all considered to be fairly important when it comes to being a winger. Each player is going to rank first, second, or third in those stats. If you finish first, you get 3 points. If you finish second, you get 2 points. And if you finish third, you get 1 point. Each player has a maximum available total point value of 30, and when all is said and done and we've gone through every single stat, we will have the definitive, not really, not the definitive, it's just a bit of fun, but we will have a number that finally tells us who's the better baller. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so as ever in my comparisons, the first stat is going to be matches played. So in first place is Garnacho with 36 matches. In second place is Jamie Gittens with 32, and barely trailing in third place is Jadon Sancho with 31. So these are all pretty close, right? It doesn't really tell you much apart from each of these players was trusted to play a lot of games by their managers, and they can all contribute to a long season, which ultimately is good point for everyone. The second one, this is the big one, it is goals. In first place for goals is Jamie Bynoe-Gittens, who scored 8 across his season in the Bundesliga. Garnacho comes in second with 6 in the Premier League, and Sancho comes last with only 3. So I will do a section on caveats at the end, because obviously there are things to consider about some of these stats, but on the face of it, Jamie Gittens had the best season there. We need players out wide that can score goals. Madueke scored 7, and that wasn't quite enough, so you've got to think we're looking for someone who can get at least 10. And next we get into the creative stat of assists. And Jadon Sancho leads the line with 4 assists last season. But leads the line is 4 assists, do you know what I mean? It definitely needs to be better than that. In second place comes Jamie Bynoe-Gittens with 3, and in third place comes Alejandro Garnacho with 2. So if we do get Garnacho, him and Jamie Gittens both need to improve those numbers. That is for absolute sure. Or is kind of the bare minimum you'd expect for a wide players trying to get in the Champions League and win stuff. And next up is everyone's favourite stat, XG per 90. So quite far out in front in first place is Jamie Bynoe-Gittens with a 0.43 XG per 90. So that's almost a goal every other game he's expected to score. In second place is Alejandro Garnacho with 0.30, and Jadon Sancho trails this one quite a lot with 0.16 XG per 90. And yeah, he didn't often look like scoring, did he? Let's be completely honest. Next up, we've got expected assists per 90, and Jadon Sancho wins back some flowers as he comes in first place for this one with 0.27 expected assists per 90. Garnacho takes second place again with 0.18, and Jamie Bynoe-Gittens just misses out with 0.17 expected assists per 90. Now, one thing I'm not 100% sure of is how many assists and how creative Maresca's wingers are expected to be in a Chelsea system or the Leicester system or his general philosophy. But on the face of it, all of those look quite low. But we move on. The next stat is shot creating actions per 90. Garnacho storms in front of this one with 3.40 shot creating actions per 90, which is really good. Second place is Gittens with 2.28 shot creating actions per 90. 2.3, and in last place it's Jadon Sancho with 2.01. So not a huge amount of difference between Garnacho and Gittens in this respect, but this is one of the good things about Garnacho, right? He is always doing something to try and create a shot, and that's a good quality to have for an attacking winger. Okay, next we get into the really wingery stuff, and this is a stat that you know Enzo Maresca absolutely loves. It is progressive carries per 90, right? Dribbling stats. And Jamie Gittens has elite dribbling stats with 6.12 progressive carries per 90. Alejandro Garnacho comes in second in this respect with a respectable 5.77, and the drop-off is quite large for Jadon Sancho at 4.44. So this is a hallmark stat of the types of wingers that Maresca likes to use in this system, and it's already promising that the best one in this respect is already at Chelsea. And another stat that Maresca loves in his bylining wingers is take-ons completed per 90. And again, Jamie Bynoe-Gittens storms out in front with 3.7 take-ons per 90. And then quite a significant drop-off with Sancho in second in this stat with 2.33, and a massive drop-off for Alejandro Garnacho as he only managed 1.06 completed take-ons per 90 all of last season. It's all hotting up, but it is starting to look like that there's a favourite, right? So the next stat is pass completion, and Jadon Sancho leads this stat with an 85.4% pass completion rate for the entire season. Jamie Gittens comes in second with a very good 83, although we should probably get that improved. And again, quite a bit of a drop off to Garnacho at 78.9% pass completion. And this is it, guys. We've got one more stat. Can anything change here? So the last stat is key passes per 90. Jadon Sancho takes the cake with 2.01 key passes per 90, which is a really good return. Garnacho actually comes in second here with an estimated 1.2 key passes per 90, and Jamie Gittens falls off with this one with only 1.07 key passes per 90. And there we have it, guys. Plain as day, the results of the first ever game of Who's the Better Baller on the Stamford Sink. So a reasonably surprising one, actually. In joint second place, we've got Alejandro Garnacho and Jadon Sancho, both sitting at 19 points. And very promising is Jamie Bynoe-Gittens, who managed to get 22 out of the available 30 points to take today's crown. So there's a couple of things to take away from this, isn't it? A, wicked Jamie Gittens. If he can transpose all of those numbers from the Bundesliga to the Premier League, he looks like the perfect type Maresca winger. And in terms of comparing Jadon Sancho to Garnacho, I know it's kind of arbitrary, right? But you do learn something by looking at these stats. Garnacho is obviously a fair few years younger than Jadon Sancho, and his strengths seem to lie in being more robust, direct, and being more of an attacking threat, whereas Jadon Sancho was definitely better at the creative side of his game. So it kind of tells you a little bit about what we're looking for as well, right? Because Jamie Gittens also did well in those direct attacking stats, and although Garnacho seems to be just beneath him, they do fit into a similar profile, whereas Jadon Sancho seems to be the ultimate outlier stylistically. Now, don't get me wrong, guys, this is all just a bit of fun, right? This is all just a bit of fun. And with that in mind, let's just talk about a few of the caveats where these stats are concerned. So the two really obvious ones, right? The first one is that Jamie Gittens played in the Bundesliga last season. And I've mentioned it a few times before, the Bundesliga is not necessarily quite as competitive as the Premier League is, but also he's 20 years old, so it's still very impressive that he managed to get that kind of return. And the thing that we have seen time and time again come to bite us in the back, players coming from the Bundesliga and not being able to translate that form to the Premier League. But it is a little bit different, right? Because we were really talking about goal scorers, and Jamie Gittens is a byline winger who's looking to contribute to the team but not be the focal point of the attack. So here's hoping all those points transfer to the Premier League. The other obvious caveat is Alejandro Garnacho was part of one of the worst ever Man United teams in recorded history last season. So maybe there's an argument to be had that actually that return for a team that was so bad is actually all right. They were a mess under Erik ten Hag at the first half of the season, and then they brought Amorim in halfway through and things seemed to get even worse. But also Amorim doesn't really play with wingers, right? That's another one of the caveats is Garnacho's natural position is a left winger, and I would actually expect him to flourish a lot more under an Enzo Maresca than he did under Ruben Amorim. Amorim likes to play two kind of half pocket 10s behind the striker sort of thing and keeps his wing backs doing all of the width stuff, the wingery bits. So it's not exactly hard to see why Garnacho maybe didn't have the best return last season. And as far as Jadon Sancho goes, just off the boil, innit? He just wasn't really bothered. He had a few moments and scored a few really nice goals, but for the entire season, and the saddest thing is he felt like our best option as well. He really felt like our best option. So what I am taking away from all this, A, Jamie Bynoe-Gittens looks like a good buy. If he can improve on these stats and transfer that form to the Premier League and get even better, then we might have a real player on our hands here. And the elephant in the room, Alejandro Garnacho. Look, man, Evidently, Maresca wants another left winger. We started last season with Mudryk and Sancho and ended up with lots of Madueke and Neto playing on the left wing with Tyreek George coming in occasionally because we didn't really have any other choice. But going into that season, Maresca was under the impression he had 2 byline left wingers to work with. It just didn't pan out that way. So we could do a lot worse than 30 mil for Garnacho, right? You know, the stats aren't terrible. And like I say, he managed those stats kind of under duress, do you know what I mean? In a team that he wasn't really happy in and didn't really favour his position. He really wants to stay in the Premier League, and he's obviously a very ambitious lad, and there was that goal, wasn't there? I'm sure if he scores 1 or 2 of those next season, then everyone's going to be forgetting about how we felt about Alejandro Garnacho, and we will all just be loving it. So no, he's absolutely not my first choice. To be honest, I just think we need to invest in other spots in the squad. If we're going to bring in Xavi Simons, he looks like he can do an excellent job out there. We've still got Neto, who has proved that he can play really well on the left when called upon, and Jamie Gittens looks like a baller. I'd much rather focus on sorting the goalkeeper situation out and bringing in another proper centre-back to partner Levi Colwill. But the brass blue coat, they love a deal, don't they? And Alejandro Garnacho for 30 mil, he's going to go one or two ways. He's going to come in and do well, or we'll end up selling him for more than 30 mil. Do you know what I mean? It's almost just definitely going to happen based on how good our negotiating has been. You've only got to look at the João Felix thing. Do you know what I mean? We bought him for 42 mil for a season and then sold him for 42 mil again. And we've actually made a little bit of profit on that deal. The Chelsea negotiators have always been able to turn water into wine. And if Garnacho doesn't work out at Chelsea, if he comes, then I would expect the same thing to happen. So that's it, guys. I'm going to wrap it up there. I hope you enjoyed the first episode of Who's the Better Baller. And I'm up for doing this all the time, man. I want to try and keep it Chelsea coded because this is a Chelsea channel. But if you've got ideas for people that you would like to see me do comparisons against and contestants for Who's the Better Baller, then throw them in the comments, man, and let's get this ball rolling. Maybe I can try and do it once a week or a couple of times a month, depending on what's going on and depending what you guys have to say about it. So thanks very much for sticking around until the end of the video. This has actually been a really fun one. I hope you guys are having a wicked day, and I can't wait to catch up with you very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.